How'd you get this gig?
Okay.
I created it.
Oh.
All right, guys.
Hi, I'm Ashlee Heath, and I'm a Georgia actor.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Georgia Actors. I'm John Babcock. We're here at Roll Call with Ashlee Heath. Hi, Ashlee.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you for coming on. I wanted to start by asking you, because we have a lot of actors on Georgia Actors who, some of them have made Georgia their home, and others, Georgia is their home, and that's your case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Where it was Augusta, right?
Yes, that's where I grew up, was Augusta.
So what was it in Augusta that you saw growing up that made you decide you wanted to be an actor? Or did it happen there?
Well, I started doing church musicals when I was 5 years old, and my very first musical, my only line through the whole thing was, "Oh my goodness gracious," and I just said that over and over again as a 5-year-old, and people laughed, and I thought that was great. So, you know.
That's
so
where the...
That's kind of where it started, and then I took, you know, I did high school musicals and plays, took some classes here and there, but that was pretty much it. And a few years out of school, when I was working here in Atlanta, I went to LA for a week to visit a friend of mine who was working for CAA at the time, and spent a week out there and loved it and was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm gonna move out to LA and try to become an actor. And I successfully avoided my parents for a couple of weeks, and then I had to go home for my cousin's wedding, and they put the fear of poverty into me. And just the distance, it just seemed like a really big deal. So I didn't. But then a couple years later, I said, well, let me just take a class. There was a woman I worked with in corporate America who was an actor here in town. So I decided to take a class, and yeah, I loved it. And just that's how it started like 17 years ago. My grandmother was really funny, and I grew up watching movies and stuff with her, and we had just this affinity for it. And so Carol Burnett and I Love Lucy, you know, those were kind of, but the Carol Burnett show was like my thing. And I loved it. I always loved it. Thought she was just brilliant, and it was so funny. And in fact, when I first started taking acting classes up here, there was a guy in my class one day that came in, and he said they were having trouble finding women who wanted to make fools of themselves on stage for this sketch comedy show that they were producing. And I didn't know anything about sketch comedy, but I was like, I don't mind making a fool out of myself. So I went and did this show with them, the sketch comedy show. It was through a couple of guys who worked at Whole World at the time. And I loved it. So that's how I found Sketchworks, which I've been a part of for more than a decade.
And do you find that, like you have an extensive kind of live experience, does that translate to on camera? Does that help? Do they help both ways?
I think so, for sure. Good acting is good acting. And my theory on the only real difference between stage acting and film, television acting is just maybe volume a little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
And then if you're in a close-up on film and TV, obviously, depending on what it is, but you have to know that you have to like ground things a little bit more, but you still have to do that on stage. It's always about grounding it in the truth of the imaginary circumstances and being specific about what you're doing. I will say that I feel like sketch comedy acting or training really helped me as an actor overall, especially for film and TV, because in sketch comedy, either the situation is ludicrous or your character is ludicrous. You have to ground it. Like, it has to be real. You have to believe it 150% so that the audience will buy it. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, ha-ha. But if it's really grounded in truth, then it's great. And so that, I think, actually helped me really become a better actor.
Do you ever recommend some type of comedic training or classes to other actors?
I mean, I think if people want to do it, then yes. I think improv training is great for actors, period. Doesn't necessarily have to be comedic, but I think improv training is great for actors, period. I've trained in Meisner. I think that improv and Meisner go very hand in hand in a way because it's all about listening and reacting. And being affected by your scene partner and what's happening. I don't know that everyone comedy necessarily sketch comedy is for them, but if they want to try it and it's fun, I think they're going to come out a better actor one way or the other. You can teach principles of comedy.
Right.
I do think that to some degree, some of timing is an innate skill that you either have or you don't. But, you know, I don't know that for sure.
So you took a few classes when you moved to Atlanta. Took a few classes. Then how was your path in like finding an agent?
I was just on all the websites. I was in an acting school here, so meeting people through that, working on independent film, stuff like that. My very first like paying job was a commercial that I don't even remember how I got the notice because I did not have an agent, but it was for Solomon Brothers Jewelry Company.
Okay.
And I booked it, and I didn't know any better than to just go in there and be 150% me in the scene. And so the commercial was that I'm at the doctor at the emergency room, and they're doing an x-ray, and my boyfriend's in there, and the doctor pulls it up, and you can see there's a diamond ring in my stomach, and then I just start jumping up and down and saying yes, 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 without him even asking me anything.
Yeah.
And so then that actually kind of became my reel to pitch. And then it was probably another maybe year that someone walked me into Atlanta Malls and Talent, who is my agent and has been for the past, over a decade. Sarah at the time called me in, who's still the owner today. She called me in and asked me how I got this commercial, and I was like, I don't know, I just went in and auditioned for it. And so she signed me for commercial, and then eventually, Kathy Hardigree owned it at the time. Sarah was just working there. And eventually they started sending me out for film and TV work.
I think we found the problem.
Yes!
Champagne flute?
Chocolate cake.
I've heard two different views. One is, oh, my agent is my boss, and I need to, please them. And the other is, oh no, my agent works for me. But it sounds like you have a completely different view of it.
I mean, I think it's a partnership.
Yeah.
I do think that we benefit from one another. And so it needs to be it's a working relationship. That's what it is. I trust them to do what they do well and to represent me well and to fight for me when I need them to fight for me. And they do a great job at that. Jason Lockhart runs the film and TV department now. Since he's come on, I think he's elevated the entire community in Atlanta. And they've been I think it's just it's a business partnership. That's what it is. That's how I would describe it.
And have you seen it kind of grow, I guess, the community and the opportunities?
Absolutely. I mean, after the tax credits came into play in 2008, I believe it just has exponentially grown every year. It's just like a domino effect. So it's I say, this is the place to be. I had friends who were in LA for 10 years, and I had more credits than they did, out there. It's just a bigger pool out there, I think. Obviously, we have grown a lot. There's a lot more actors and people here now, also more opportunity. But yeah, I think this is the place to be. It's more affordable, and I think the community is really great, and there's a lot of opportunity here.
Now, you've done a lot of features since that Solomon Brothers commercial, and a lot of television. Do you ever have, when you're on set, is there ever an opportunity to basically kind of, run lines with kind of the leads and the names, or is that kind of just show up here, say this, know your part, and then go?
Most times you have a rehearsal.
You do? Okay.
It's not that. I don't know that I've ever been on a major film or television set where they came to my trailer or I went to theirs and were like, let's just run.
Sure, yeah.
Now, I've not booked roles that has necessarily gone that way. When I did the very first major film and television role I ever booked was in the internship opposite Owen Wilson. And we definitely sat there and he would run lines and he'd say, what do you think about this? Do you think this would be better? And I was like, buddy, I'm not about to have you rewrite the script on anything I say. But I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so, but he was lovely. And we ran lines, they are just kind of rehearsing and stuff like that. But I think I did a Tyler Perry show one time, and we ran lines while we were waiting on him to come in and walk us. And so she and I ran lines, and she was one of the leads on the show. So it's just kind of different, I guess, depending on the situation.
I should have gone on my own when I had the chance. I was so stupid.
Nikki, you did the right thing. Always got a paycheck, played it smart. Dad would have been proud.
What would he have been proud of? I didn't play it smart. I played it safe. And look where I am now. Proud?
You're at your nephew's Little League game. Now cheer up.
Okay.
Come on. All right, Tate.
All right, here we go, Tate. Put some wood on it.
You're a great kid.
I keep telling you make a terrific father.
Yeah, you do keep telling me that.
Unfortunately, it would require you having a relationship that lasted longer than 3 months.
I'm not sure it would require that.
Let me call Kevin.
Jeannie, I'm sure your boyfriend's a great guy, but I'm not ready to work for someone who spent all of last Thanksgiving explaining the meaning of his tattoo.
Be reasonable, Nikki. Take the job. What else are you gonna do?
Talk about how important networking is for a working actor.
So I don't know that I take a traditional networking view of acting. I think that networking, especially if you're starting out, but in general, when you were in classes and stuff like that, and you're getting started and you're looking for projects and you're trying to be involved in this community. But even now, I directed like my first film last year and I loved it. So part of that is like finding other people who have the skill sets to be able to do more of that indie type filmmaking from that viewpoint. So I think that it's important to find your community and your tribe, be that through your acting school or classes, just in general, people who can support you, people that you can bounce things off of, ideas, people who can collaborate with you on projects, and also who can encourage you when it gets tough, because it does get very, very tough. And then it does help you to find out about other opportunities that you might not know of otherwise.
What about the importance of, would you say, social media, keeping up with the TikTok and Instagram? And
So, again, I probably have a different viewpoint on this than other people. I think that if that's a way for you to create your own content, I think that's very important. And if you can do that, and you can do that well, and you can build an audience there, I think that is a great avenue for people to go about, especially when we're talking about comedy, because people will eat that up. And so if you have that skill set, you have the time, the energy, the drive, and you can do that, and especially if you've got, you know, a unique viewpoint or character or whatever you're doing, I think it's amazing. As far as just building a brand, I don't think it's that important. You know, I think it's important that people can find you, and I think people like to see who you are as a person. For the most part, for the stuff I'm auditioning for, I don't think anyone cares. I could be wrong, but I just don't think they care.
did you go into kind of your acting career, or at least thinking about being more of a working actor, realizing, oh, I'm going to need another source of income to make up for all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I went into it thinking that, or if that's just the harsh reality of it that hits you real fast. I was working in corporate America when I started acting.
Okay.
And I had built up, I had been there for a while, I had a lot of autonomy in my job.
Oh.
And then when I left that job, was laid off from that job.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want to stay in corporate America. I was kind of burned out on it, but I also knew that if I went to another job with another company, it would be a while before I had that level of autonomy. And I was starting to have more auditions, more stuff like that. So I decided to go into real estate in 2009.
Oh.
Yeah, so such wise decisions I've made in my life. And, you know, it's great because it offers me a lot of flexibility. I'm my own boss. But yeah, I have to pay the bills. I have friends who are actors. That's what they do. They pay all their bills that way, and they do very well. But the bulk of people I know have to supplement. Even those that are still predominantly just an actor, they're usually supplementing their income by teaching classes, taking photographs, doing something in that realm.
Look at this place. Does their energy ever stop? It's the go-to snack for those days that never stop. Take it anywhere while you go everywhere.
How long were you in there?
You don't want to know. She'll be so impressed. She may even forget that comment you made about her sister. She won't.
People ask me about becoming an actor all the time, and my first piece of advice is, look, if you can go do anything else and be happy and fulfilled, then go do that, and then just do community theater, take classes, do whatever. But if you can't, and you need to join the madness, then just jump right in. You gotta love it, because the odds are most of us never get this to be our sole source of income, and then even fewer ever make it to a point of notoriety where they feel like they've made it. And then I listened to this podcast recently, Dead Eyes. Have you listened to this podcast? Anyway, it's a brilliant podcast. It's really great for all kinds of people. But the main thing I learned when you're listening, because he has a lot of very famous actors and people on the podcast, is that especially in this business, the carrot is always moving. So one quote I heard in there basically was that, you know, Tom Hanks wishes he could be Tom Cruise and open with, you know, $1 million, you know, or $100 million weekends or whatever. And Tom Cruise wishes he could have Tom Hanks 3 Oscars or whatever it is. So it's always,
that makes sense.
You know, when do you make it? I don't know. I haven't. But I'm still good.
Well, what's changed? I mean, every time I've suggested something like this in the past, you freak out.
I do not freak out.
Well, you get really defensive.
I do not.
Okay. I think if it makes you feel even a tiny bit better, then you should just do it.
The reasons I would like to make it are twofold. Number one, it's the only way I'll end up on Broadway at this point. I gotta become famous, and that is a dream. But at this point, my age, I'm not going to New York City, living 4 people in a 1-bedroom condo and like busting my rear end for 15 years to like, get on Broadway. So that's it. And then 2 is that you have the resources, autonomy to, do the roles and the projects that really matter to you, and produce, the projects and stuff like that, and get them seen, that type of thing. So yeah. Other than that, I mean, I guess it'd be nice to like go to fancy award shows and have people donate,
all the
gorgeous gowns and stuff.
jewelry and everything. Yeah.
I don't know that I'd like everyone knowing who I am when I go to the grocery store with no makeup and haven't washed my hair in 4 days.
No.
Probably couldn't do that.
Right. No. You'd have to hire somebody for that. Last thing to ask, Ashlee.
Okay.
If you could share your worst gig, your worst experience.
Okay, so one of my worst gigs was I booked a commercial and I had prosthetics, and they wanted us to have faces that they were permagrunts. And they also wanted my hair to stand straight back, which was not happening. And so they tried everything. They taped my hair to the back of the car seat, like the headrest in the car that I was in and everything like that. It was crazy. They ended up putting all this product in my hair. I had to wash my hair 10 times to get it out. But worse than that was the prosthetics that they had on my face. When they were taking them off, it broke every blood vessel in my face.
Oh my gosh.
It was like I would just look like marred for like several days after that. It was terrible and painful, and it was awful. Another really bad one. This one might be a better story. One of my worst gigs was I was on this commercial. It's this national credit card company commercial. And when I get there, they're running way behind. An actor that is a friend of mine, she had been in the spot. She comes in and she's like, this guy's terrible, this director. And I'm like, great. Okay, this is gonna be fun. So when I get out there, I've done this audition, I've done the callback, and I've done it in the same vein of comedy. It's a commercial.
Right.
It's supposed to be funny commercial, kind of ridiculous. I'm in this commercial with Charles Barkley. As I'm coming down and I go to speak to him, the director's just like, all right, cut. He's like, Ashlee, I'm gonna need you to give me your truth. And I was like, okay, truth. Okay, so do it again. And then he says, okay, Ashlee, I need you to cut. I need documentary style, Ashlee. And I was like, okay, smaller. And I was like, okay. So I just keep changing. Then we get down there. I'm sitting next to Charles Barkley and some other famous athlete that I don't know what his name was. And we're sitting there, and he says, Ashlee, I'm going to need you to relax your eyes. And I just said, okay. And Charles Barkley looks at this other guy, and he's like, did you hear what he told her? What does that even mean? And he goes, what does that even mean to me? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, but it's my job just to say okay and try something different. And then it never even made it to air because
Do you mind switching seats with me? Last time I sat here, we won. It's just a silly superstition.
Okay, I'll do that.
Great. Oh yeah, look, I'm up in the 700s, Rosie.
Yeah, no residuals on that one. I'm like, if this guy's directing, let's see what I can do.
Good.
What's it like when people ask you to be part of, your friends ask you to be part of their short films, and then you read the sketch or the script and you're like, what the fuck is this?
How do you diplomatically tell a friend of yours that maybe the material that they're giving you on this independent project is needs work?
Needs work. I guess that depends on how good of friends you are. Usually I just do it because they're my friends.
Right.
And at this point, maybe I would make some suggestions to the script. I mean, if they're paying me,
yeah,
for the most part, then I do what they want me to do. If they're not paying me and they're friends or it's some indie project, then I may say, well, look, here's some suggestions, and if if I don't want to do it, if they don't want to take them, then I just don't do it.
Yeah.
But also, if they're my friends, then I've done some stuff that was, I mean, I thought it was fun. So, you know, whatever.
It's all about the
Yeah,
experience.
I mean, we're all learning here.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Ashlee.
Thank you, John.